Hello, this is Leandro and today we're reviewing Obsession by Cory Baker. So I watched Obsession and it's just okay. First of all, I appreciate that this film can be an exaggerated depiction of how obsessive and compulsive behaviors in relationships can ruin someone's life. Bear, the main character, makes the wish for Nikki to be obsessed with him, with a little artifact that he bought from a store, to the point Nikki starts getting psychotic, not being able to spend a second without him and getting jealous of other people when getting close to him, but in very deranged and grotesque ways, which in reality happens because A. She's just lost autonomy of her own body and gained a split personality, or B. She's been possessed by a demon. Now, the director himself has said that there is no demon possession though. However, for how everything's depicted, the movie just tells me it's a demon. And spoilers, big spoilers. Why is she making these sort of rituals or tributes with candles, with literal corpses? Like why does she have murderous intentions in the first place? Did Nikki have a satanic hidden personality? The satanic and evil personality of her got activated in her brain? That would make a little bit of sense though. It's so easy and obvious to say that it's just a demonic possession for how it's written. If I was the director, I wouldn't be angry at people interpreting it that way, because it's pretty much what's being communicated, and because Nikki was never informed about the wish in the first place. And in the film she directly makes Bear acknowledge his wish. How does she know about the wish? She was never hypnotized in some way. How did the wish affect her in the first place? The thing is that there is a supernatural force that's going on that has affected Nikki, or the Make-A-Wish teleports you to another universe or whatever. There's a supernatural force and we know that, but this just screams satanic possession. The director says otherwise, but sorry, it's so obviously depicted as a demonic possession. Anyways, Bear just takes advantage of her behavior. Yes, she's behaving all weird and scary, and let me tell you, very scary. But Bear is so obsessed with being loved by Nikki that he accepts dealing with all of her craziness just to be with her. It doesn't matter if she hurts herself till she bleeds. He will just go, "It's okay, babe, just don't be weird, I love you." At that point we ask ourselves, is he obsessed as well? Did the wish have an effect on him as well? Or is he just stupid? I mean, he must have some attachment issues going on here. Mental issues, you know, related to attachment to other people. An attachment that must be very severe, very serious. Because you're seeing atrocities happening before your eyes and you're not doing anything about it. But my problem with this movie is not this necessarily. I know that this is part of his character, but why are his friends Ian and Sarah as oblivious as he is? All of your characters can't be as stupid as him. Someone needs to actually understand what's going on and to do something about it. Bear with me here, no pun intended, because there's a scene where they are in a reunion and she gets crazy and suddenly screams, she's not me, letting us understand that the real Nikki was revealing that someone else was taking control of her body. But there were like 10 people in the room and no one was able to catch that. No one could figure out an interpretation of what she said. And this is just one of the scenes, because throughout the whole film they are like, "Yo, Nikki's behaving weird, dude. Yeah, something's wrong with Nikki. What could it be?" And that's about it. A light bulb never turned on in the air, or maybe they never watched a single horror movie in their lives, or it happens that all of them are strong believers of supernatural forces or demons not existing, but why are they so oblivious about it? And okay, that can be part of your characters, but what this causes is that the plot ends up having unexplored territory. No one cares to investigate further. Bear calls the number that appears on the back of the little Make-A-Wish artifact and enters one Reddit thread that he looks at for 20 seconds, and that's about it. That's the whole research that he made. We know what these demon supernatural forces intentions are, superficially, but we don't get to know why was that Make-A-Wish thing in the store in the first place, or who was the person behind it, or how does it even work. work actually, like it is confusing. The whole film is this immovable force versus unstoppable object, which is a concept that can work. However, it sometimes falls under this trope of people not knowing how to act in dangerous situations in horror movies. However, what I'm going to acknowledge here is that there is the excuse of Bear being obsessed with her as well, for which he can think properly, okay, so it's a bit forgivable, I guess. And I said that his friends Ian and Sarah should be doing something about it, and that everyone can't be so stupid, but I mean, maybe it's because they are just distant, they have different lives, or in the case of Ian, maybe it's because he's just an asshole, because he is. So there are ways in which you could argument their behavior, yes, in which you could contradict what I just said, but I still think that to my taste it makes the film a bit too passive and leaving things unexplored. For example, I love the horror movie Hereditary, where you have drama, difficult relationships, and the characters sort of have a passive behavior as well in this film, letting the demon take control of their lives. However, our main character, interpreted by Toni Collette, does make an effort to look deeper into what has drawn that demon into their lives and what exactly is its intention, revealing lore that makes you leave the theater still figuring it out. We're talking about symbols, names, connections, and an entire cult. It's one of those films where it's actually fascinating to see how the dots connect as the film progresses, which is what doesn't really happen in Obsession. Obsession is way simpler than that. And okay, Obsession is not about a demon in the first place. If we're gonna talk about this comparison, I get it. The director, Cory Baker, says that he didn't want to make the film about an angry demon possessing people and going on a killing spree, which is a reductive way to talk about demonic possession movies. I just gave you the Hereditary example. Obsession doesn't have the exact same plot, but I can see a comparison there. Hereditary, that movie that I love, has something that Obsession doesn't have, and it's a little bit more of ambition. But this is a thing of personal taste. I think that it's okay to have a simpler plot like Obsessions, as long as it is fun, interesting, or smart. But I'm not going to lie, this movie was starting to become a bit tiring. It was starting to become a bit tiring to see the film not turn to a more interesting direction and staying so passive, making things a little too predictable at the end, and not in a very satisfying way. Anyways, I think this movie is simple and digestible. From the start, you know how it's going to end without providing too many surprises. I mean, you just let things happen before your eyes, in the same way the characters do. But of course, this movie has its strengths. For example, in giving you the chills. In Navarrete's performance is really notable. It gave me the heebie-jeebies. She was terrifying, spine-chilling. She was a total freak. Just 20 minutes in, I said to myself, wow, she's a good actress, and she's probably gonna get that Oscar. Michael Johnston's performance was good as well, but I think Navarrete is on the spotlight right now. Her Oscar campaign is strong as well. She's being plastered everywhere on social media. She kind of saves this movie. Every second she's on screen, she makes things very tense. And well, I just have to admire how a YouTuber like Cory Baker, a comedian YouTuber, has branched out with a film like this being a total success. A friend of mine told me that this is good considering the budget it had. And well, yes, I can see the lack of budget and how people are loving it and the good things it has. I don't think it's that remarkable either. To me, this feels more like the indie film that everyone loved but that ended up being snubbed by the Oscars. It's kind of weird seeing that people are considering this a candidate for a Best Picture nomination. I don't think the bar is too high this year, but I guess I will be happy to see a horror film nominated in that category. We've seen just a couple of those in the last years. It doesn't compete with The Substance. So anyways, I think there are inconsistencies in Obsession between what's shown and what the intention of the director is. There's a sense of passiveness that can be tiring, at least to me, but at the same time a very tense sensation that keeps things interesting for the most part. And well, good performances with very realistic and down-to-earth reactions from the characters, even though, as I said, can result careless sometimes, resulting in not taking things further in the plot. However, this is a little bit of a contradiction because yes, the characters do have lines and dialogues that feel very, very down to earth, as I say, very casual, you know, the average conversation that people in real life have. But it's a little bit ironic because first reactions to the atrocities that happen before his eyes are not that realistic, I would say. Why, I don't know why he's so careless about everything that's going on. Honestly, I don't know if their performances are that realistic. In part they are, but in part they aren't at all. So rating movies is weird, but I would give this one a 6 out of 10, a good 6 out of 10. And I think I am being gentle, but I do think that this has its merits. So thank you for watching and see you next time.